My name is Mason Reynolds, 38 years old and a single dad to twins. Family has always been complicated for me, especially when it came to our annual beach vacations. Year after year, my mother would pack my sister Jessica's family of 6 into our beach house while telling me there just wasn't enough room for me and my kids. I never argued, even when Jessica smirked and said, "Maybe if you had a real job, you could afford your own vacation." My twins spent summers at home while their cousins built sandcastles. Last month, that all changed when I bought a resort. Before I tell you how this story unfolds, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Have you ever dealt with family favoritism? Hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories of sweet justice served cold. I grew up in Lexington, Massachusetts, a nice suburban town outside of Boston. Our family wasn't wealthy, but we were comfortable. My father, Robert, worked as a mechanical engineer for a manufacturing company. He put in long hours to provide for us, often coming home after we were already in bed. My mother, Elaine, was a stay-at-home mom who ran the household with military precision. From as early as I can remember, there was always a clear difference in how my parents, particularly my mother, treated me versus my older sister Jessica. Jessica was 3 years older than me, and she was what you'd call the golden child. She brought home straight A's, was captain of the debate team, and seemed to excel at everything she touched. I, on the other hand, was more creative and entrepreneurial. I was always coming up with business ideas. From lemonade stands to mowing lawns to building websites for local businesses in high school. "Mason, why can't you be more like your sister?" became a refrain I heard throughout my childhood. Jessica never got detention. Jessica always finished her homework before dinner. Jessica wouldn't have forgotten to take out the trash. My father would sometimes try to balance things out when he was home. He'd take me fishing on Saturday mornings or help me with my various business ventures. "You've got a good head for business, Mason," he'd tell me. "Someday you'll show them all." Those moments with him were rare but precious. Everything changed when I was 18. My father had a massive heart attack at work and passed away before the ambulance could even get him to the hospital. Jessica was 21 and in her junior year at Boston College. I had just been accepted to UMass Amherst, planning to study computer science. After Dad died, Mom became even more controlling of family traditions and gatherings. That summer was the first time I noticed the pattern that would define our family dynamic for years to come. We had always spent 2 weeks at Cape Cod each July, staying at a small beach house my grandparents had owned. With Dad gone, Mom took charge of organizing the vacation. "Mason, I think it might be better if you stayed home this summer," she told me one evening. "Jessica is bringing her roommate, and there just won't be enough space for everyone." I was hurt but didn't argue. It seemed small compared to losing Dad. I stayed home that summer, working extra shifts at the local electronics store while my mother and sister enjoyed the beach. I met Allison during my sophomore year of college. She was bright, ambitious, and understood me in a way few people did. We got married right after graduation when we were both 22. The twins, Tyler and Emma, came along a year later. Earlier than we had planned, but we were overjoyed. My mother's reaction to our marriage and the birth of the twins was lukewarm at best. "Are you sure you're ready for this responsibility, Mason?" she asked repeatedly. When the twins were born, she visited for exactly 3 days before declaring she needed to get back home. Meanwhile, Jessica had married Bradley, a successful investment banker she met at Boston College. They had their first child when Jessica was 25, followed by 3 more in quick succession. My mother practically moved in with them after each birth, staying for weeks to help out. "Your sister needs me," she'd explain when I'd ask why she couldn't visit us more often. "She has 4 children and a busy husband. You only have 2, and Allison is home most of the time anyway." The pattern continued throughout our 20s. Jessica's career as a corporate attorney flourished with Mom's constant support, including free childcare whenever needed. Bradley's income allowed them to buy a large house in an exclusive Boston suburb. Every family gathering became a showcase for Jessica's perfect family and successful career. I still remember a particular Thanksgiving when I was 28. Jessica was showing photos from their recent trip to Europe. All 4 children perfectly behaved in matching outfits in front of various landmarks. And next summer, she announced, Bradley's firm is sending us to their London office for 6 months. Mom's coming with us to help with the kids. That's wonderful, honey. My mother beamed. Then, turning to me, Mason, how's that computer thing you're doing? Found a real job yet? I had actually just secured venture capital funding for my second startup, a security software company, after selling my first small app development business. But I knew better than to expect recognition. It's going well, I said simply, helping Tyler cut his turkey. Allison squeezed my hand under the table, a silent show of support. The annual beach house vacations at Cape Cod became our family's most cherished tradition, at least for my mother and Jessica's family. As Jessica's children grew, they began to take up more and more space in the 4-bedroom vacation home. The summer the twins turned 7 was the first time my mother explicitly told us we couldn't come to the beach house vacation. Mason, I've been thinking about the sleeping arrangements for this summer, she said during a Sunday phone call. With Jessica's 4 children getting bigger, and Bradley's parents joining for a few days, there just isn't enough room for your family this year. Maybe next year we can work something out. I glanced at Tyler and Emma, who were listening eagerly. Already excited about the beach trip they looked forward to every year. Their faces fell as they registered what their grandmother was saying. Mom! The kids have been looking forward to this all year, I said quietly. We could stay at a nearby motel if space is the issue. That would defeat the purpose of a family vacation, wouldn't it? She replied dismissively. Besides, Jessica's oldest has a big swim competition that week. We need to focus on supporting him. That night, I had to tell the twins we wouldn't be going to Cape Cod that summer. I tried to make it sound like an adventure, promising we'd do something special instead. We ended up camping at a state park for a weekend, which they enjoyed, but it wasn't the same as 2 weeks at the beach with their cousins. Allison was furious. This is ridiculous, Mason. Your mother has been playing favorites for years, but this is crossing a line. The twins deserve to be part of family traditions too. I agreed with her but didn't know how to confront my mother without making things worse. Let's just plan our own vacation next year, I suggested. The following year, history repeated itself. This time, the excuse was that Jessica's second oldest had asthma that was triggered by too many people in the house. The doctor says we need to limit his exposure to too many people, my mother explained. I hope you understand, Mason. It's a health issue. The 3rd year, she didn't even bother with a detailed excuse. There's just not enough room this year, Mason. Maybe next year. By this point, the strain on my marriage was becoming unbearable. Allison couldn't understand why I wouldn't stand up to my mother and sister. The arguments grew more frequent and intense. They walk all over you, and you just take it, she said during one particularly heated exchange. What message does that send to Tyler and Emma? That they should accept being treated as less important than their cousins? When the twins were 8, Allison and I separated. 6 months later, we were divorced. There were other issues in our marriage, but the constant tension with my family certainly contributed to the breakdown. I became a single father with joint custody. The twins stayed with me 1 week and with Allison the next. I threw myself into building my business, determined to provide for my children and show them that hard work and perseverance mattered more than someone else's approval. The annual exclusions from the beach house continued. The summer the twins turned 10, Jessica's comment was particularly cutting. We were at a family dinner in May, and the subject of the upcoming vacation came up. We're so excited about Cape Cod this year, Jessica said, not even bothering to lower her voice around Tyler and Emma. Bradley's getting 2 full weeks off for the first time in ages. That's wonderful, dear. My mother responded. I've already stocked the freezer with the kids' favorite ice cream. I could see my twins exchanging sad glances. Emma leaned over to whisper to me, Are we going to ask about coming this year, Dad? Before I could respond, Jessica looked at me with a smirk. Mason, you should really consider getting a real job instead of playing with computers all day. Maybe then you could afford your own vacation instead of hoping for handouts. Tyler's face reddened, and I could see tears forming in Emma's eyes. I calmly stood up and said, Kids, let's head home. We've got an early start tomorrow. As we left, I heard my mother say to Jessica, I don't know why he gets so sensitive about these things. That night, after the twins were in bed, I overheard a conversation that broke my heart. I was passing by Emma's room when I heard them talking. Why doesn't Grandma want us at the beach house? Emma asked. Is it because we're not good enough? Dad says it's because there's not enough room. Tyler replied. But there are 4 bedrooms there. We could sleep on the floor if we had to. I think it's because she likes Jessica's kids better, Emma said softly. Maybe because their dad makes more money than ours. I stood frozen in the hallway, my heart shattering at hearing my children internalize the rejection. That night, I made a silent promise that things would change. The following year brought the most painful incident yet. I had taken the twins to visit my mother for her birthday. While looking for a bathroom towel in the hallway closet, I accidentally overheard my mother on the phone with her friend. Oh, Janet. You know I only have one successful child. She laughed. Jessica's done so well for herself. Mason? He's still playing around with that computer stuff. No stability. Thank goodness Jessica and Bradley provide me with grandchildren I can actually be proud of. I quietly closed the closet and walked away, those words burning into my memory. On the drive home, I made another silent vow: I would succeed on my own terms, without their approval or support. And someday, they would realize what they had missed. Last summer marked the breaking point in our family dynamic. My app development company had been steadily growing, with several successful security and productivity applications in our portfolio. I had a talented team of developers working for me, and we were starting to attract attention from larger tech companies. Meanwhile, the annual exclusion from the Cape Cod vacation had become so routine that the twins, now 15, didn't even ask about it anymore. Instead, they'd started spending part of their summers at coding camps and science programs, turning their exclusion into opportunities to develop their own talents. The incident that changed everything happened at a family dinner in early June. We had gathered at my mother's house for her birthday, a tradition I maintained despite everything. Jessica and her family were already there when we arrived, her 4 children dominating the living room with their tablets and toys. Uncle Mason! Jessica's youngest called out when we entered. Despite everything, the cousins had always gotten along well on the rare occasions they saw each other. Jessica barely looked up from her phone. Oh, you made it! Mom wasn't sure you'd come. My mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. Mason, Tyler, Emma? Good, you're here. Dinner's almost ready. The meal started pleasantly enough, with the kids sharing stories about school and activities. Then Jessica started talking about their upcoming Cape Cod vacation. Bradley's firm has been so successful this year that he's taking 3 full weeks off, she announced. We're extending our stay at the beach house through the first week of August. That's wonderful, dear. My mother beamed. I've already started planning the menus. Tyler and Emma exchanged glances but said nothing. They had long since learned not to expect inclusion. What about you, Mason? Bradley asked, seemingly oblivious to the tension. Taking the kids anywhere special this summer? Before I could answer, Jessica interjected with a laugh. Mason? Take a vacation? Please. He'd have to have a real job first. There was an uncomfortable silence. Even Bradley looked embarrassed by his wife's comment. Actually, I said calmly, the business is doing quite well. We've had some interest from investors recently. Jessica rolled her eyes. Still playing with your little apps, huh? When are you going to get serious about providing for your kids? I felt Tyler stiffen beside me. Emma looked down at her plate, pushing food around with her fork. Jessica, that's enough, my mother said, but there was no real rebuke in her tone. Mason does his best with what he has. That was when Jessica delivered the comment that would become the catalyst for everything that followed. Well, his best clearly isn't good enough, she said with a dismissive wave. Maybe if you had a real job instead of your hobby business, you could afford your own vacation instead of hoping for charity. But I guess some people just don't have what it takes to succeed in the real world. The table fell silent. Even Jessica's children looked uncomfortable. Tyler abruptly stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. May I be excused? He asked through gritted teeth. Me too, Emma added quietly, already half out of her seat. I nodded, and they both retreated to the backyard. I excused myself a moment later, leaving my mother making weak attempts to change the subject. I found the twins sitting on the old swing set, barely moving back and forth. I'm sorry about that, I said, sitting on the grass in front of them. Why do you let them talk to you like that, Dad? Tyler asked, his voice cracking slightly. Your business is awesome. You've built everything from nothing. Emma wiped at her eyes. And why does Grandma never stand up for us? It's like we don't even matter to her. I didn't have a good answer. I had spent years making excuses for my mother and sister's behavior, telling myself that keeping the peace was more important than my pride. But seeing the hurt in my children's eyes, I realized I had been wrong. I promise you both something, I said finally. Next summer will be different. I don't know exactly how yet, but things are going to change. What I couldn't tell them was that earlier that week, I had received an email from the CEO of SecureTech, one of the largest cybersecurity companies in the country. They were interested in acquiring my company and its intellectual property. The negotiations had been ongoing for months, conducted under strict confidentiality. The preliminary offer was substantial, more money than I had ever imagined possessing. But I hadn't said anything to anyone, not even the twins, until everything was finalized. The day after that disastrous dinner, I received the final offer, $97 million for my company, with a 3-year contract for me to stay on as a consultant during the transition. When I told my financial advisor about the offer, he merely fell out of his chair. Mason, do you understand what this means? He asked when he recovered his composure. This is generational wealth if managed properly. Over the next few weeks, as lawyers finalized the details of the acquisition, I met with financial advisors, tax specialists, and investment consultants. I established trust funds for the twins' education and future, made some strategic investments, and considered what I wanted to do next. During this time, my mother called several times to discuss the annual Cape Cod vacation. I just wanted to let you know the dates will be at the beach house, she said during one call. I know you understand about the space situation, but perhaps you could drive down for dinner one evening? It would be nice for the children to see their cousins. I thanked her for the invitation and said we'd see how our schedule looked, knowing full well that we wouldn't be taking her up on the token gesture. Instead, I was formulating a plan that would change our family dynamic forever. The sale of my company was finalized in September, but I decided to keep the news to myself. The terms of the deal included a confidentiality clause about the exact amount, which suited me perfectly. All anyone needed to know was that I had sold my business and was now working as a consultant while exploring new opportunities. Even the twins didn't know the full extent of our new financial reality. I told them that the company had been sold and that we were now very comfortable. But I wanted them to maintain their normal lives and values. Does this mean we're rich, Dad? Emma had asked. It means we don't have to worry about money, I answered carefully. But I don't want this to change who we are or what matters to us. With my newfound financial freedom, I began looking for investment opportunities. That's when I came across Bayview Resort, a once popular vacation destination on the Massachusetts coast that had fallen into disrepair after the original owners retired. The property included a main lodge, 20 beachfront cottages, a restaurant, and various recreational facilities, all situated on 30 acres of prime coastal land. The resort was about 45 minutes from the family beach house on Cape Cod. Close enough to make my point but far enough away to be entirely separate. When I toured the property with a real estate agent in October, I could immediately see its potential beneath the peeling paint and outdated furnishings. The owners are motivated to sell, the agent told me. They've had a few offers, but nothing has panned out. With winter coming, they're getting anxious. I made an offer that day, well below asking price but all cash with a quick closing. It was accepted within hours. By November, I was the owner of a rundown but promising beachfront resort. I spent the winter and spring pouring resources into transforming Bayview. I hired a renowned hospitality management company to oversee the renovation and eventual operation of the resort. Architects, interior designers, landscapers, and construction crews worked through the off-season to bring my vision to life. The main lodge was completely gutted and rebuilt with luxury accommodations, a spa, and conference facilities. The cottages were renovated to provide upscale yet comfortable beachfront living. The restaurant was redesigned with a gourmet kitchen and panoramic ocean views. New amenities were added: an infinity pool overlooking the ocean, a fitness center, tennis courts, and water sports facilities. Tyler and Emma became enthusiastically involved in the project. Tyler, who had inherited my head for business, offered surprisingly insightful suggestions about amenities that would appeal to teenage guests. Emma, with her artistic eye, helped with color schemes and interior design choices for the cottages. "What are you going to call it, Dad?" Tyler asked one day as we walked the property, watching workers install the new boardwalk to the beach. I had been thinking about this for weeks. "Reynolds Point Resort," I decided. It's time our name stood for something in this family. Throughout these months of intense activity, I maintained minimal contact with my mother and Jessica. Christmas was the only time we saw them in person. A tense dinner where Jessica bragged about Bradley's latest promotion and their plans for spring break in Aspen. "And of course, we're already planning for Cape Cod in July," my mother added. "The usual 2 weeks, possibly extending to 3 if Bradley's schedule allows." "That sounds nice," I said neutrally, sharing a secret glance with the twins. "What about you, Mason?" Jessica asked with her typical condescension. "Still consulting, or have you found something more stable yet?" "I'm working on a new project," I said vaguely. "A kind of resort development." Jessica laughed. "A resort? You? What, are you the janitor?" I just smiled and changed the subject. As spring turned to early summer, Reynolds Point Resort neared completion. The management team began hiring and training staff. Brochures and a website were created, though they wouldn't go live until after our soft opening, with special invited guests. By late June, everything was ready. The resort was a masterpiece of understated luxury, comfortable yet elegant, with every detail carefully considered. The staff was professional and eager. The kitchens were stocked, the linens fresh, the grounds immaculate. It was time to send out the invitations. I had been planning the invitation strategy for months. With the help of a high-end stationery designer, I created elaborate invitation packages for selected family members: my father's brothers and their families, my mother's sister and her husband, several cousins who had always been kind to me and the twins, and a few family friends who had supported us over the years. Each package contained a personalized letter explaining that I had recently acquired a coastal resort and was hosting an exclusive, all expenses paid 2-week vacation for special family and friends before the official opening. The dates, not coincidentally, overlapped exactly with the annual Cape Cod Beach House vacation. The invitations mentioned, limited space, and requested confidentiality, as we cannot accommodate everyone for this special pre-opening event. Enclosed were glossy brochures showing the resort amenities, elegant rooms, private beach, and gourmet dining options. Conspicuously absent from the invitation list were my mother and Jessica's family. The responses came quickly, a flood of excited phone calls and emails. My father's younger brother, Uncle James, called first. "Mason, this is incredible! The place looks amazing in the brochures. Are you serious about hosting all of us for 2 weeks?" "Absolutely serious," I confirmed. "Everything is taken care of, from airport transfers to meals. Just pack your swimsuits and sunscreen." My cousin Michael, who had always been a friend despite living on the opposite coast, emailed. "Dude, what the hell? Last I heard you were running a small software company, and now you own a resort? I need the full story when we get there." As I had anticipated, word spread quickly through the family grapevine. It took less than a week before my mother called. "Mason, I've been hearing some strange things from your Uncle James and Aunt Patricia," she began, her voice a mixture of confusion and annoyance. "Something about you inviting them to a resort? What's this all about?" "I bought a resort property on the coast," I explained calmly. "We're having a soft opening for family and friends before the official launch." There was a long pause. "Well, that's surprising. When were you planning to tell me about this?" "Jessica and I haven't received any invitations. As I mentioned in the invitations, space is limited for this event," I said, using the exact phrase she had used to exclude us from the beach house for years. "We can't accommodate everyone. But we're your immediate family," she protested, her voice rising slightly. "Surely you don't mean to invite extended family but exclude your own mother and sister?" "The guest list has been finalized," I said firmly. "Maybe next year we can work something out." The call ended shortly after, with my mother clearly flustered and confused. I knew it wouldn't be the end of the discussion. Jessica called next, her tone immediately confrontational. "What the hell, Mason? Mom says you've bought some kind of motel and you're inviting the whole family except us? Is this some kind of joke?" "It's not a motel, Jessica. It's a luxury resort. And it's not a joke. So you're seriously excluding your own family?" "Bradley's parents got invitations, for God's sake. As I told Mom, space is limited. We can't accommodate everyone." Jessica's voice turned nasty. "This is about the beach house, isn't it? You're still upset because we can't fit your family there? That's so pathetically petty, Mason. Think whatever you want." "Jessica, the guest list is final." She hung up on me, but the barrage of texts that followed showed just how upset she was. The final one read, "You'll regret this. Family is supposed to come first." I showed the twins the text exchange later that evening. We were sitting on the deck of our home, watching the sunset. "Are you sure about this, Dad?" Emma asked quietly. "It seems kind of mean." "Is it mean to treat people the way they've treated you?" I asked. "For years, they excluded us from family traditions. They made you both feel less important than your cousins. They've dismissed my work and belittled our family. At some point, you have to stand up for yourselves and say enough is enough." Tyler nodded slowly. "I get it. But what happens after? Are we just never going to see Grandma again?" It was a fair question, and one I had wrestled with myself. "This isn't about cutting them off forever," I explained. "It's about changing the dynamic. For too long, they dictated the terms of our relationship. Now they need to understand that disrespect has consequences." As the date of the resort vacation approached, social media began to light up with excited posts from family members packing for their trip. My cousin Jennifer posted, "Can't believe we're heading to a luxury resort tomorrow. Thank you, Mason," with the hashtag family vacation. My mother called again the day before guests were set to arrive. "Mason, this has gone far enough," she said, her voice stern but with an undercurrent of desperation. Your sister's children are devastated about being excluded. Bradley's parents are raving about the invitation they received. How do you think this makes us look? Probably about the same way it made my children look when they were excluded from family vacations year after year. I replied evenly. When other relatives asked why we weren't at the beach house, and you made excuses about space. That was different, she protested. The beach house really doesn't have enough room. And neither does my resort. Not for everyone. The first guests arrived the following day to a warm welcome from the staff and me. The twins and I greeted each family personally as they were escorted to their accommodations. The expressions of amazement as people took in the stunning ocean views, elegant decor, and luxurious amenities were exactly what I had hoped for. Mason, this is incredible! My Aunt Patricia exclaimed as she hugged me. We had no idea you were doing so well. Your father would be so proud. That night, we hosted a welcome dinner on the main terrace overlooking the ocean. As the sun set over the water, casting golden light over the assembled family members, I gave a brief speech thanking everyone for coming and officially welcoming them to Reynolds Point Resort. This place represents a dream come true for me, I told them. Not just the business aspect, but the chance to create new family traditions and memories. For too long, some of us have felt excluded from family gatherings. That ends now. Here, there's room for everyone who treats others with respect and kindness. Several people glanced at each other, obviously aware of who was missing and why, but no one said anything directly. Instead, glasses were raised in a toast, and the celebration continued. The next day, photos began appearing on social media. Cousins on jet skis, aunts and uncles enjoying cocktails by the infinity pool, kids playing volleyball on the private beach. The twins were surrounded by family for the first time in years, building relationships with cousins they barely knew. I knew Jessica would be seeing these posts. Her oldest son had accidentally accepted Tyler's friend request months ago, giving us a window into their social media world. It was only a matter of time before she reacted. Sure enough. On the third day of the vacation, the resort manager called me. Mr. Reynolds, there are 2 women at reception insisting they should be on the guest list. They say they're your mother and sister. The moment of confrontation had arrived. I asked the manager to escort my mother and Jessica to my private office in the administrative wing of the main lodge, away from the guests enjoying their vacation. I took a moment to compose myself before heading there, reminding myself to remain calm and controlled no matter what they said. When I entered the office, they were both standing, looking around at the tasteful decor and ocean view with expressions of disbelief. My mother appeared older and more vulnerable than I had ever seen her, while Jessica's face was flushed with anger. Mason, my mother began, her voice quavering slightly. What is the meaning of this? Why would you exclude your own mother from such a special family event? Jessica was less restrained. This is absolutely ridiculous. We drove 4 hours to get here after seeing all these posts online. Your own family had to find out about your success through social media? And then to be turned away at reception like strangers? I sat down behind my desk, gesturing to the chairs opposite. Please sit down. I don't want to sit down. Jessica snapped. I want to know why you're being so petty and childish. Is this really about the beach house? Are you that small-minded? Jessica, I said evenly, if you want to have this conversation, you'll sit down and speak to me with respect. Otherwise, security can escort you back to your car. She glared at me but sat. My mother followed suit, looking bewildered. First of all, I began. This isn't about being petty or childish. This is about consequences for years of hurtful behavior. What are you talking about? My mother protested. We've always included you in family events when possible. When possible, I repeated. That's exactly it. For 15 years, you've excluded my children from the annual beach vacation with the excuse that there wasn't enough room. You prioritized Jessica's family every single time. making Tyler and Emma feel like they weren't important enough to make space for. That's not fair. My mother objected. The beach house really doesn't have enough bedrooms for everyone. We could have worked something out if you had wanted to. I countered. We could have rented a nearby place, taken turns, anything. But the truth is, you didn't want to include us. You've always favored Jessica and her family, and you didn't think my feelings or my children's feelings mattered. Jessica rolled her eyes. Oh, please. You're so dramatic. It's a vacation. Not a human right. It's not just a vacation. I continued. It's the constant dismissal of my work, my choices, my accomplishments. It's the way you've talked down to me in front of my children. It's hearing my daughter asked if Grandma doesn't like them because they're not good enough. My mother's face paled. Emma said that? I never meant to make the children feel unwelcome. But you did. I said firmly. Both of you did. Jessica, you've repeatedly mocked my career, suggested I couldn't provide for my children, and treated me with contempt in front of them. Last summer, you said I didn't have what it takes to succeed in the real world. I was just joking around. Jessica protested, but her voice lacked conviction. No, you weren't. And now you're upset because for once, you're the ones being excluded. For once, you're not the center of attention. For once, you're experiencing what my children have felt year after year. I leaned forward, looking directly at my sister. So no, Jessica, there's simply not enough room for you and your family at my resort. Maybe if you had a better attitude, you could afford your own vacation. Jessica's mouth fell open at hearing her own words thrown back at her. For once, she seemed at a loss for a comeback. My mother reached across the desk, her hand trembling slightly. Mason, please. We're family. Whatever mistakes we've made, surely we can work through them. Don't shut us out like this. I'm not shutting you out permanently. I clarified. I'm showing you that relationships have to be reciprocal. Respect has to go both ways. For years, you've dictated the terms of our relationship with no regard for my feelings or my children's feelings. That ends now. Jessica stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to beg for an invitation to your precious resort. Come on, Mom, let's go. But my mother remained seated, a dawning recognition in her eyes. Jessica, sit down, she said quietly. Then, turning to me, Mason, I never realized. I never thought about how it looked from your perspective. I was trying to accommodate everyone as best I could. But I see now that I consistently put Jessica's family first. It wasn't just about accommodations, I said. It was about making my children feel like they mattered as much as their cousins. It was about respecting my work and my choices instead of constantly comparing me to Jessica. Jessica made a noise of frustration. So what? Now we're supposed to apologize because your feelings are hurt? Grow up, Mason. Actually, I said, I don't need your apology, Jessica. I've moved past needing your approval or understanding. This isn't about punishing you. It's about showing my children that they deserve respect, and that sometimes you have to set boundaries with people who don't give it to you. My mother was quiet for a long moment, looking out at the ocean visible through the office windows. Finally, she said, The resort is beautiful, Mason. You've accomplished something remarkable here. Your father would have been so proud. Thank you, I said, genuinely touched by the rare compliment. Is there any way we could join the family gathering? She asked hesitantly. Even just for a day? I'd like to see everyone, and to spend some time with Tyler and Emma. I considered this. Not this time, I decided. The twins and I need this time with the family members who have always treated us with respect. But this doesn't have to be the end of our relationship. If you're willing to acknowledge the patterns that have hurt us and work on changing them, we can start rebuilding. Jessica stood up again, grabbing her purse. This is a waste of time. Come on. Mom. Mason clearly just wants to gloat about his success and make us grovel. My mother remained seated. Jessica, please listen to what your brother is saying. We've hurt him and the twins. Whether we meant to or not. So now you're taking his side? Jessica demanded incredulously. I'm not taking sides, my mother said wearily. I'm trying to understand. Jessica threw up her hands in exasperation. Fine. Stay here and let him make you feel guilty. I'm going back to the beach house with my family, where we're actually wanted. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. My mother flinched at the sound but didn't follow. I should go after her, she said after a moment. But Mason, I want you to know that I'm sorry. I never intended to make you or the twins feel less important. Intentions aren't the same as impact, I said gently. But I appreciate the apology. It's a start. She nodded, standing up slowly. When the vacation is over, could we talk again? Maybe I could take the twins out for lunch, start spending more one-on-one time with them? I think they'd like that, I said. And yes, we can talk more later. After she left, I sat alone in my office for a long while, watching the waves break on the shore below. The confrontation had gone more or less as I had expected. But my mother's willingness to listen had surprised me. It was a small step, but perhaps an important one. That evening, several family members asked about the unexpected visitors. Word had spread quickly through the resort. Your mom and sister were here? My Uncle James asked as we watched the sunset from the terrace bar. Briefly, I confirmed. They weren't happy about not being invited. He nodded thoughtfully. I've known your mother all her life. She's my sister and I love her, but she's always played favorites with you kids. It wasn't right. Thanks for saying that, I said. It means a lot to know that others saw it too. Your dad would be proud of you, Mason, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. Not just for all this. He gestured at the resort around us. But for standing up for yourself and your kids. That takes real courage. As I looked around at my family enjoying the resort, the twins laughing with cousins by the fire pit, aunts and uncles relaxing with drinks, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. For the first time in years, I was surrounded by family who valued me and my children exactly as we were. The 2 weeks at Reynolds Point Resort became the healing experience I had hoped for. Without the tension and hierarchy that had defined our family gatherings for so long, everyone relaxed and connected in ways we never had before. The twins thrived in this new environment. Tyler, who had always been somewhat reserved around family, opened up and developed a close bond with my cousin Michael's son, who shared his interest in computer programming. They spent hours together working on a game they designed, occasionally emerging to swim or join group activities. Emma, artistic and sensitive, found a kindred spirit in Uncle James's granddaughter, Lily. The two girls became inseparable, creating elaborate sand sculptures on the beach and collaborating on a mural for the kids' activity center that the resort manager asked to keep as a permanent installation. One evening, about halfway through the vacation, I found myself sitting on the beach with Uncle James, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. You know, he said thoughtfully, your father would be damn proud of what you've built here. Not just the resort, but the way you've brought the family together. I hope so, I replied. Sometimes I wonder if this whole thing was too extreme, too vindictive. Uncle James considered this. Robert never had the courage to stand up to your mother the way you have. He loved her, but he knew she favored Jessica, and it bothered him. He used to talk to me about it, how he tried to balance things out when he could. This was new information to me. He did? Oh yes. He was so proud of your entrepreneurial spirit, Mason. He used to tell me, James, that boy's going to outshine us all someday. And look at you now. He was right. I felt a lump form in my throat. I wish he could have seen this. He sees it, Uncle James said simply. Trust me on that. The conversation shifted my perspective on what I had done. What had begun as an act of justified revenge had transformed into something more meaningful, creating a new family tradition built on mutual respect and genuine connection. As the vacation progressed, I received a lengthy email from my mother. She wrote about her regret at realizing how her actions had affected me and the twins over the years, and her hope that we could begin to rebuild our relationship. She acknowledged that Jessica was having a harder time accepting responsibility, but that she, at least, wanted to make amends. I shared the email with the twins, asking for their input. "Do you think Grandma really means it?" Emma asked, her natural skepticism showing through. "I think she's trying," I said. "People don't change overnight, but recognizing the problem is the first step." Tyler was more pragmatic. "I think we should give her a chance, but with boundaries. Like, maybe start with day visits before jumping back into longer family things." I was impressed by their maturity and willingness to consider reconciliation. "That sounds reasonable. We'll take it slow and see if her actions match her words." The day before our guests were scheduled to depart, I hosted a farewell dinner on the beach. Tables were set up on the sand, adorned with lanterns and fresh flowers. The resort chef prepared a seafood feast, with stations for grilling lobster, clams, and fresh fish. As the sun set and stars began to appear, I stood to offer a toast. "Thank you all for being part of this special pre-opening week at Reynolds Point," I began. "Having you here has meant more than you know. For too long, our family has been divided by unspoken tensions and old patterns. This resort represents a new beginning, not just for me professionally, but for us as a family." I looked around at the faces lit by lantern light, at my children sitting among cousins who now felt like true friends. Moving forward, Reynolds Point will host an annual family gathering, open to everyone who believes in treating each other with respect and kindness. There will always be enough room for that. Glasses were raised in agreement, and the celebration continued late into the night, with music and dancing on the beach. After the guests departed the following day, the twins and I stayed on at the resort for another week before its official opening. We used the time to decompress and reflect on everything that had happened. On our last evening, we sat on the deck of the owner's cottage, watching the waves roll in. "Dad," Emma said thoughtfully, "I'm really proud of what you did. Not just the resort, but standing up for us." Tyler nodded in agreement. "Yeah. It was kind of awesome to see you not just take it for once." I smiled at them both, my heart full. I should have done it sooner. I thought I was keeping the peace by accepting their treatment, but all I was doing was teaching you to accept disrespect. "Better late than never," Emma said, leaning her head on my shoulder. A week after we returned home, I received a letter from my mother. Inside was a formal apology, not just to me but addressed specifically to Tyler and Emma as well. She acknowledged the years of favoritism and exclusion, taking full responsibility without excuses. She asked for the opportunity to make amends, suggesting regular lunches or dinners where she could get to know her grandchildren better. I showed the letter to the twins, who decided they were open to starting with lunch the following weekend. It was a small step, but an important one. Jessica remained distant, still angry about the exclusion from the resort opening. I hadn't expected an immediate change from her, and I was prepared for the possibility that our relationship might never fully recover. That was okay. I had learned that family wasn't defined by obligation or blood, but by love, respect, and mutual support. Reynolds Point Resort opened to the public in August to rave reviews. Its success exceeded even my most optimistic projections. But more important than the business success was the personal transformation it represented. I had gone from being the family underdog, always accepting scraps of attention and inclusion, to creating my own legacy and establishing new traditions. I had shown my children that they deserved respect, and that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. The experience taught me that sometimes the most powerful response to years of exclusion isn't to force your way in, but to create something better and decide who gets to be part of it. Family isn't just who you're born to, it's who treats you with love and respect. And there's always enough room for that. So what about you? Have you ever had to stand up to family members who took you for granted? What did you do about it? Let me know in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about standing up for yourself and creating boundaries. Share this video with someone who might need a reminder that they deserve respect too. Thanks for listening to my story, and remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better. See you in the next one.